Hey there, guys, and welcome to the Mad Story. It's Andre here, and I'm joined by Simon. How you doing today, Simon?
I'm good, man. Good. Looking forward to today's show.
Excellent, excellent. We will be joined with the legendary Danny Cage from the Monster Factory in New Jersey. Really looking forward to that, man.
Yeah, he's going to be a great guest to have on. He's a very insightful man. Followed him for a while now online. You know, a lot to talk about with him later.
The experience of him is just too much, man. Just too much. Another person. This is great to learn from.
Yep, that's what it's all about these days. Getting people prepared for what is a very tough and physical career.
Exactly, exactly. But in the meantime, what we're going to talk about, we're going to go over a few things. Wow, kicking off, man. Jericho's gone.
Yeah, but he'll be back soon. He'll be back soon. He's only got a few dates.
Dude, I have to just say this. Even if it's not for a while, everybody needs to get on their feet and give this man a standing ovation. Seriously, because over the last 18 months or whatever it's been, this guy has been the forefront of the comedic aspect of Raw.
Yeah, Kevin Owens deserves a lot of credit too. The whole thing was very much a joint effort on their part, but it really showed that they enjoyed working together.
I agree, but do you know what? When Jericho went with the list, man, it was just like, do you know what? This guy, to be honest with you, for me, it just showed that he could still go, still as good as he ever was. He can still hold titles because obviously he's getting on a little bit himself. But yeah, you wouldn't think it. You definitely wouldn't think it by looking at him, and just basically showed that he's in control of this. He'll do it for as long as he wants to do it.
Man.
I was gonna say, all in all, over the last 18 months, he has shown that he is the man.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome. I love Jericho. He may not be able to do everything he used to do, but he's got his ring psychology so down that he could keep you entertained in a 10-minute headlock match.
Exactly. But you know what? This is the thing. He's one of the vets. If you look at it now, I was thinking the other day, realistically, Undertaker, we don't know what's going on there. More than likely gone. Kane's on the political aspect. So Jericho's probably, he's not here at the moment and he's just left, but he's probably one of the, how can I put it, originals from the Attitude Era, if you like, that's been there since that time. And okay,
I remember when Chris Jericho debuted against the Verbal Joust with The Rock, and he came in as a big deal. WWE seemed to be treating him like a big deal, and I remember that it cooled off significantly for a few months. I can't exactly remember why all that was, but even then, Chris Jericho showed the resolve that he wanted to be at the top of his game, and it's shown all through his career, despite his size, which is, rumors, if you'd believe them, play a factor in WWE politics and such. He's still overcome that, and he's still there. He's still competing at the very top of the game.
I was going to say, he can do whatever you want him to do. If you need him in that mid-card area, so like it's an IC title or United States title, he can do that. If you need him in the World Heavyweight area, he can do that too very well. And I think that is part of what's kept him in the scene for such a long time. He can also diversify. So
one of the best things about Chris Jericho is when you've got a lot of the older, in their 40s legends, it's hard these days for them to get booed. It's hard for them to get booed in some ways because people want to cheer him. But Chris Jericho, it's like a tap. He wants people to boo him. He'll turn that tap on and it'll rain. But the very next week, if he wanted people to cheer him, he could have done the most dastardly thing in existence. Come the next week, he could have the crowd eating out the palm of his hand, and that's a gift.
I was going to say, that is literally just a gift for him. But do you know what? Okay, he's gone now. Hopefully, he's not gone for too long. We've always said Jericho comes and goes as he wants to. But yeah, hopefully we will see him again soon. Just definitely a guy who I think has been the backbone of that company. It's particularly on Raw for the last year and a half, as we were saying before, man.
Yeah, this run has been one of his longer runs.
Yeah, because especially over the last couple of years, he has come in for maybe 2 or 3 months and gone again and come in. But yeah, he has quite a consistent run here.
I think if I could be mistaken, don't quote me. I'm not sure. I think he does DDP yoga.
Okay, all right. I didn't actually know that.
I think so, if I recall. And you know, big up DDP. DDP is the man as well for what he's done for Jake the Snake Roberts and people like that. I was
going to say, this thing's getting a lot of great publicity. All the people that said they were using it, I remember Scott Hall was saying that he was using it. If you tell me Jericho's using it as well, this thing's clearly working. And
there's something going right with it.
Well, yeah, I think it's just a way that helps these guys just kind of focus their mind on something. Because obviously later on in life, when you're not wrestling, you don't necessarily have that direct focus anymore. It can be difficult to find something else similar. But if you guys can target and get your mind into this DDP yoga, then it seems to be a great thing, man. A lot of great results, and you've seen it in a lot of people. I think Lex Luger said he's done it as well.
Everything I've seen to do with DDP yoga has always been positive. I've never seen anything negative posted about it.
Yeah, that's great though. That's great, and I'm happy to see someone like DDP being at the forefront of it and doing things that are helping other wrestlers as well. So,
it's a community at the end of the day.
Not even just other wrestlers, people across the board who may be in that situation with that mindset. So it's a great thing, man.
Yeah, definitely. I remember watching a video where DDP helped a guy, nothing to do with wrestling, just he was severely overweight, ex-military, told that he wouldn't be able to walk properly again. And the things DDP did for that man was astonishing. Well, what the man did for himself as well, because we've got to give the guys the due. Because if you
don't want to do this, or if you don't want to do it, no one can force you to help yourself or improve yourself. At the end of the day, it's you that kind of get yourself there. Yeah, okay, you've got the package and the structure and the tools to help you do it, but it's all in yourself, all in all. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that. 100% props to those guys who have actually turned their lives around, and hopefully today they're living they're living healthy and happier lives. But I got one thing I want to talk to you about, man. One thing, House of Horrors match, man.
Do we really have to talk about that?
Yeah, we do.
We have to?
Do you know honestly what? Look at this. When I first watched it, well, actually, when I first heard about it, I thought, what the fuck are these guys doing now? This sounds so hokey. But you know what? I'm not going to lie. When I actually watched it, I actually quite liked it.
Oh, mate. Randy Orton grew a beard on the way from the house to the stadium. You know, wow, man. Honestly, that was
do you know what it reminded me of, right? It reminded me of old school Resident Evil. It does seem like one massive cutscene.
You know,
but I'm not gonna lie.
In my opinion, if WWE wanted to do something like they did with the House of Horrors, they should have just waited until this situation's resolved with the Broken Hardys gimmick, which, you know, it's only a matter of time. It's just a question of money, you know. So when that is resolved, they should have just waited and done something with the Broken Hardys. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy have already showed that they are capable of, you know, look what they did with all this stuff in TNA.
I know, but it's just the door's just opening for those guys, Simon. They don't just come back. They came back at WrestleMania, which was a couple of months ago. They're enjoying their tag team run at the moment. I actually agree with you actually with that. You can go down that broken gimmick, and I think Matt would love it and be great at it. But at the moment,
total
I think
non-stop deletion or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I remember that a couple months ago. But I think now it's just cool to let them have their tag team title run. Obviously, it'd be great if, I don't know, something happens towards the end of their tag team title run, they lose the titles and like split up again, or something along those lines, and you see Matt kind of go back into that darker shell. But who knows?
It will happen.
It needs to, doesn't it? It really does.
No, it will. It's just a matter of time, because otherwise Matt wouldn't be doing the delete hand movement.
But you know what, man? Again, with the Hardys, whatever you put them in, they're great. Regardless of what you do, whether you have them together, you have them separately, they both can go. They both can go. They can get a crowd. They can get a crowd behind them. They can have a crowd. I mean, for years, we thought Jeff Hardy was just that like Rey Mysterio, John Cena kind of face guy. But obviously, when he went to TNA, man, you just saw that total different side of him.
The Hardys bring out the best in each other.
Yeah, like no one else. Exactly. And that's the great thing they're back together, because obviously you had Matt on WWE for a while, then you had Jeff in TNA, and
then they alternated for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously
for a while, when I'm glad to see it.
it's been a long time coming. I mean, it's been years actually, but still. But I'm glad that they're back. But going back to what we were saying before, okay. I think with the House of Horrors match, right? It was great on paper. I actually really liked it. I think that there was a lot of effort put into it, and the whole, how can I put it? The whole scene of it worked really well. But I think when you actually went through the match itself, it might have kind of been on paper, looked and seemed a bit better than actually playing out, because I really it kind of struggled to follow it in places.
Yeah, I wasn't that particularly interested in it. I sort of got lost. And I don't know.
It was a bit confusing when they cut the match halfway through and they came back to the arena, but
and Randy Orton grew a beard.
You're not letting that go, are you?
And he grew a beard on the way.
You're not letting that go, man.
It was quite something to behold, honestly.
Guys who are listening, have a watch of it. Let us know your thoughts, because obviously we and Simon are on two different sides of the fence on this one. Simon's basically not really feeling it. I actually think it went too bad. You let us know what you think. Moving forward with that, I just heard, and you tell me if you heard the same thing. I heard actually last week when Raw was actually in London, it actually had its lowest ratings this year.
Raw has consistently been the worst show out of the two.
Dude, I was actually at the O2 Arena that Monday, and I wasn't even there to see Raw, but I was in the building, and seriously, I just heard a massive crowd go off. So I thought that it seemed to me that it was going off in there, man. So I was actually really shocked when I heard that.
Yeah, the British over here, we're loud, but because the show's taped,
yeah, exactly.
WWE over the years have been known to toy with the audio levels.
Dude, I was completely, I think it was the other side of the arena for me, actually. But there you go. But it's just, I don't even, yeah, you are correct. I've heard several times over that SmackDown's actually winning in the ratings, and SmackDown's
been the better show.
Well, we were saying this, weren't we? Because obviously when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about, since the brand extension, SmackDown did kind of take over when you got John Cena over there and AJ Styles. But I think Raw still got a lot to offer. I just don't know how it's not quite coming together for him.
It all comes down to the writing at the end of the day.
In what respect? What kind of story? What storyline is it that you think could be stronger?
If you recycle the same storyline for the fourth time in 3 years, like repetitive storylines, for instance, champion loses non-title match. Next week, champion wins the rematch, setting up the match at the pay-per-view. It's just so consistently repetitive that you can call it as soon as it's going to happen. The roll-ups, where they finish the match with the roll-up. You see it so often, it just lost all meaning whatsoever.
One thing that I did think was a bit odd, and you tell me if you feel the same. When Alexa Bliss went against Mickie James, she just punched her in the face and pinned her.
I like Alexa Bliss.
We all like Alexa Bliss, but it just seemed a bit. Like, okay, what was that supposed to happen? She literally just punched her. She was on the turnbuckle. She punched her in the face and then pinned her. And it was like, right, okay. It was like a standard punch. I was like, right, okay, that's a bit odd. But of course, obviously, we all love Alexa Bliss, so
yeah,
we can oversee it.
Right. So now we're going to head into our interview with Danny Cage.
I've been waiting for this for a long time, man. I'm really excited.
All right. So we want to welcome Danny Cage onto the show at this point in time. Danny's the owner of the Monster Factory in New York, responsible for training the next generation of wrestlers. Danny, welcome to the show.
I'm doing awesome, but it's in New Jersey, not New York.
New Jersey. Yeah. Sorry, we get confused over here because you look like you're the same place.
Yeah, exactly. It is just a little bit of an attitude, and our football teams are better, and baseball teams are better, and hockey teams are better, and basketball teams are better. But other than that,
don't worry, I know. Was it the culture and the geography?
Right. So basically, what we wanted to talk to you about today, you're obviously training a lot of people at the moment. And what I wanted to know is, at the Monster Factory, what is it that you do differently to other schools that seem to be giving you a sort of edge, in my opinion? Because you're getting the results. Like, you've got Punisher Martinez in Ring of Honor. You've got Steve Cutler in NXT now. You've got Matt Riddle going around doing independents all over the place. Like, what is the secret?
Well, we actually, it's no secret. We train them as athletes. For years, a lot of people didn't train pro wrestlers as professional athletes. They just showed them a couple moves and they're like, okay, now you're free to go on your own. Imagine training, imagine the New England Patriots going, okay, well, we all know how to play football. We don't have to show up for training anymore. We can just, we have 16 bookings this year. And if we do good, we'll have a couple more bookings for the playoffs and Super Bowl. We'll be fine. But no, they tend to work every day. So all of our guys pretty much train every single day, even while they're taking bookings. Matt Riddle's still doing training. He's not only wrestling training, but also MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that. Punishment Martinez is one of our coaches here, so he's working every day. He was here working out last night, and then, this morning at 8 a.m., he's in New York. So for Ring of Honor, and then he'll be in Philly for Ring of Honor. And half our kids are right now at Ring of Honor helping out, setting up, or they're booked to work. Two of our guys are actually commentators. One's doing Spanish commentary. One's their main guy, Ian Riccaboni, who's now pretty much taking over for Kevin Kelly as the voice of Ring of Honor. Shaheem Ali, Leon St. Giovanni, Punishment Martinez, all Monster Factory guys, and Rico De La Vega is doing Spanish announcing. So, I mean, it's pretty cool what we got going on.
Yeah, it seems like at the Monster Factory, you're not just focusing on the in-ring skills, you're really branching out into other areas, especially with the commentary, with the large Spanish-speaking population over in the United States that our listeners in Britain aren't probably aware of as much. But that is a good way to branch out and to extend the next generation of announcers into the wrestling world.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if we could see something like that over here as well, actually.
Yeah, the thing is, like, too many people, like, the in-ring stuff is important, and we do a lot of time on that. But the out-of-ring stuff, not only, commentary, promos, but also social media, how to handle your business. This is the year 2017, and a lot of the trainers out there are still training like it's the 1980s, and that's the big problem. And I refuse to do that. And in the beginning, some people doubted my methods, but now I watch and other people are copying my methods, which I love. And, we got to do what we do by copying a lot of other people's methods. We took a little bit from NXT, a little bit from Ring of Honor. We've taken a little bit from everybody and created our own brand here and a way of doing things.
I'm really glad you mentioned social media. I was going to ask a question to you about that, actually. I was thinking about it earlier today. In this day and age, social media is a very important tool, in my opinion, for anything to do with wrestling. Like, a lot of I just believe that the wrestlers should be sharing the events they're going to, and it's a great way to put over the promotion, and it gives them good exposure to places they wouldn't necessarily reach otherwise.
Yeah, it's not only good for promoting the show, but why not promote what you're doing, the struggle of what you're doing? Because if all you do is, imagine if an actor, all they did was talk about a movie they're in. No, you want to hear the story. You want to hear about, if you watch when they're doing publicity for a movie, they're going there telling funny stories about it. They're showing behind the scenes footage of it. They're showing scenes on the set. A way to interact with people and draw that in, and for people not to take advantage of it, they're jackasses.
Mm-hmm. Just to cut in there, is that something that a lot of your boys do, Danny?
Yeah, we try to.
I know that you've got the Monster Factory Network online as well, haven't you, at the moment?
What's that, bud? I'm sorry.
The Monster Factory Network, where you can actually tune in and watch your shows online.
Yeah, man. It's, that's a big part of it. I don't worry. Like, so many people are like, well, you guys need to be on TV. Well, I'm not worried about the TV. That's like trying to sell VHS tapes right now. I'm worried about the future. And the future streaming things. Not everybody's going to have cable, but everybody has access to a phone, a smartphone, a tablet. More people have access to that. And plus, nowadays, people are only home for a couple hours. So to be able to watch us, they'd have to either DVR us or be home at the particular time we aired. But with our network, they can watch it anytime, anywhere, any place. So I'll take advantage of that as opposed to having TV.
Man, I totally agree with that 100%. You have to be on the pulse and staying ahead, stay in the forefront of everything is important because you'll get left behind otherwise. So you're absolutely right in terms of having those different platforms and having accessibility to them.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Danny, another thing I wanted to ask you. A lot of people want to get involved in wrestling, but not a lot have what it takes. So what does it take to be a pro wrestler in this day and age?
I think a lot of people have what it takes. I think I believe in, like, you can do anything that you want to do. When I started, no one would have thought that I would be training people and getting them signed to WWE, but I proved everybody wrong. So I think the biggest thing is to go out there and do what you want to do, but you have to go all in. You can't there's too many people I always say there's too many people in love with the idea of being a pro wrestler and not enough people willing to do what it takes to be a pro wrestler. And when I say pro wrestler, I just mean in the pro wrestling business itself. There's times, sometimes we'll get the kids here and they'll contact me and it'll be like 10 o'clock. They're like, I got to leave. I have to go to work early tomorrow. And I'm like, wait a minute, how far do you live from here? And they're like, a half hour. I go, okay, you're home by 10:30. What time do you have work? 9 a.m. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I was like, then you might as well just quit wrestling right now because in wrestling, sometimes you're going on 3-4 hours of sleep a night. There'll be kids brand new coming in to help set up and it's like 11 o'clock and we're not done setting up. But then they say, oh, well, I got to go. I have to get up early and go do something with my family. I'm like, you can do that on 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep. All of us have done it. I'm sure all of us have stayed up very late to try to make an advancement with a girl, I'll say, without getting too dirty.
Don't worry, we're not PG.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man. I know what you're saying.
But, people will put in that time and sacrifice because they're worried about the payoff, but some people don't see the payoff when it comes to pro wrestling, which blows my mind. Like I said, a lot of people are in love with the idea of being a pro wrestler, not being a pro wrestler. So I'd say the biggest thing is anybody can do it. It's just a matter of doing everything that's necessary. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
Sure.
Whether it be listen, show up on time. We have very strict rules here, and everybody thinks it's because I'm a control freak, but I'm actually trying to prepare them for what it's going to be like to work for a major corporation, because I worked for a major corporation for 17 years, and I know what it's like. I worked for Verizon, and I was a technician for them and did fiber optics, so I know what it's like. So, we have uniforms they have to wear. They have to check in. If they don't text me or let me know that they're going to be late, they're suspended. If they no-show, there's only 3 reasons you miss training, and it's if there's a death in the family emergency, if you're sick and you require a doctor's note, if you have work, or if you have school. You don't get to miss training because, you want to go hang out with your family or a cousin's in town, because then I'll say to them, did you call out of work today? Well, no. Well, then consider this fucking work and put your ass to work, and you can tell your cousin that you'll talk to him tomorrow.
But when you do that, the quality of people that you get around you probably a lot better and a lot better standard as a result of that.
Yeah, but it's a two-way street, or it's a one-way street sometimes, because a lot of times you wind up losing somebody that might be a very talented wrestler, but they just don't get it mentally. So,
right.
If maybe a little bit more time, and I've given people second and third chances, I bring them back in after they've got themselves kicked out. But there's only so much you can take. Like so many people, it like a Bronx Tale in the movie A Bronx Tale. They say,
I love that film.
Yeah, they say, talent, wasted talent is the worst thing ever, and that's what I see a lot in wrestling today is wasted talent, and it's not just in-ring talent. It's people that are actually good people, but then take the wrong advice. They go down the wrong path. They take shortcuts, and there's really no shortcuts in this. You have to put in the work, pro wrestling and pro wrestlers have like the greatest bullshit detector ever because we're in a line of business where we deal with bullshit. So if someone's faking it, it's very easy to detect, and I can spot it a mile away, and it's heartbreaking to see these kids like they think, they got it figured out, but they don't. They just pick and choose what advice they want to listen to from the different people, whoever's feeding their ego that day.
Yeah, completely get you, man. Completely. Really good way to put it. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, I've been following you on Facebook quite a long time now. Obviously, you're quite political on there, but there's something that I wanted to bring up, that there's something going on in the American news at the minute about like the new Donald Trump medical care, about pre-existing conditions not being covered by insurance. Now, wouldn't that have an impact on the wrestling business?
Oh, of course, tremendous impact, because when you work for the WWE, you're required to actually have health insurance, and you're considered independent contractors, but you have to have health insurance, and it's not exactly easy to get health insurance. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Johnny Mundo. It might have been him or somebody who couldn't get health insurance because of his neck, but then like through Obamacare, he was able to get health insurance. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I mean, I just remember there was a couple people that had injuries before and they couldn't get coverage, but because of Obamacare, they were able to get coverage. And it's a scary thing when, you live in the United States and you have to worry about going bankrupt to stay healthy. It's very scary to me.
Yeah, see, over here, we are blessed, thankfully, with the NHS, which means if the worst happens, we would just be able to go and get that medical care and not have to worry about the aftermath of that. And I reckon it must put a lot of people on edge, especially in the line of work that wrestlers do, where they are literally throwing themselves about on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah. For example, like I loved Obamacare. Without it, I wouldn't have, walked away from my job at Verizon and taken this, because before Obamacare, my health insurance, like if I was to do like the alternate, was over $2,000 a month. And that was like minimum coverage. But because of Obamacare, I have me, my wife, and two girls. We had the top notch coverage, like, our copays were next to nothing. We had like the platinum, and it was only $1,000 a month. Now that's not cheap, but I could have got less, but we also opted to get the greatest coverage ever. I wouldn't have been able to do that, a couple years before Obamacare came out. So, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't even think it's going to pass, to be honest with you. I think this is the plan they came up with after 7 years. I mean, that's pretty bad, or 8 years. But yeah, but the thing is with wrestling, the independent wrestlers aren't required to have insurance, meaning like the ones that aren't signed to contracts with WWE and such. I don't know Ring of Honor's thing there, if they're required, but a lot of people I know, they don't even care about coverage, but then they're also 20 some years old, and they don't realize
exactly
shit happens.
It must be a scary thought though, because obviously it's one of those things where every time you're in that ring, it could be the last time. You never know what can happen out there. And if that is how you put food on your table for your family, that must be quite a scary thought. Even if you think to yourself, do you know what? Okay, I am still quite young. It's still how you feed your family.
Yep. But then there's, then they'll just make a GoFundMe and blame everybody else for them.
Yeah.
Look at Mick Foley's hip recently, people look at his hip. It was wrecked. He could barely walk before that replacement.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't understand that. I mean, it's so sad that we have all these people, doing these things to their bodies, and then like all of a sudden, like, they keep putting things off, and then it just wrecks you further, because now that your hip's bothering you, now your back is going to start to bother you because you're walking a certain way. It's that domino effect that happens to your body, and I had it happen to me: herniated disc, then sciatica, Then I stopped exercising and then eating crappy, which then led to diverticulitis. So like, it's this domino effect of things that can just happen to you.
So, with that in mind, on the general subject, who knows what kind of shape the Undertaker's in at the moment? Like, after everything he's put his body through for WWE, you know, he is someone who's just gone to bat for them time and time and time again. And I see people online all the time, just complaining, you know, about, oh, this was rubbish. Why is he even there? Please retire. And I've always said, someone like The Undertaker should be able to retire on their own terms. I think maybe that he's in a similar position with his hip now to Mick Foley. So do you think this is the end of The Undertaker now?
Who knows, man? That guy, he just doesn't give up. He's kept, like, him and Kane, like, just like, it's irony. You know, it's those two, like, they're always reinventing themselves, always relevant, always doing this, always doing that. I mean, he's one of my favorite guys to watch and all, but you know, I like the last couple matches you watch him, and it reminds me a little bit when I was watching Joe Montana play for the Kansas City Chiefs. You can see hints of the greatness there, but you can tell that his body's really hurting. And it almost becomes sad, but not like in a sad of like, I hope you retire. It's a sad of like realizing that like you're watching somebody who is legendary, you know, kind of fade away. And it's that's the part that's kind of sad.
That brings me to a point, actually, Dan. Do you think too, in some cases, some people should maybe walk away before it gets to that?
Well, it's tough to walk away when it's basically wrestling is
their life.
Yeah, it's an addiction. It really is. So that's tough. It's a tough call to make. You know, so many people want to, but you just get dragged right back in. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I can understand that. But in some case, let me rephrase that. It's more a case of what I meant was like, do you risk damaging your legacy in some cases?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know though, because like, I remember people were saying when Hogan first went to WCW, they were saying that he should retire. Look at him, he looks awful. Then he was doing that ridiculous show, Thunder in Paradise or whatever the heck it was called. And everybody's like, retire. Then Hall and Nash come over. He becomes Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and then everyone's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Don't retire. Retire. You're awesome. Then he comes to WWF and he becomes Hulk Hogan again, and he wins the heavyweight championship, and everybody loves him again. Then they say retire again. You know,
so it's very fickle.
Yeah, it could be anything. I mean, you know, some people say don't retire the Undertaker, then they yell retire to the Big Show, then they say retire to, you know. So it is what it is. Fans are always going to do that. The most important thing is like, sure, I would wish their body wouldn't break down and stuff like that, and you might damage your legacy and all. But like I said, when it's an addiction and you don't even think about your body hurting, you just get up and you do it, and until you can't do it anymore, it's tough. It's very tough, and that's when you start running into. And I never dealt with it, but you know, you hear so many stories of the pain pills and the pain medication and the muscle relaxers and stuff like that. That's the scary part. I tell all our kids, like, never take anything. I've never taken muscle relaxers or pain pills or anything for my injuries. You know, pain is supposed to be there. It's letting your body know something. The most you should take is maybe ibuprofen, some Epsom salts, heat, ice. But anything else, like in a pill form or all that, you're running into addiction, which is a path that the wrestlers from the 80s and 90s went down, and they paid the price.
Do you think that the wellness policy is effective in WWE?
I have no clue, to be honest with you. I don't even know their policy. I don't know their policy. I don't know what's banned. I've heard marijuana isn't banned. You get fined. If that's the case, I think that's awesome, because I think marijuana should be legalized across the board. So I don't know what their policy is. I mean, I can't see it making sense that, someone has a prescription for Percocets, he could wrestle on that or wrestle with that in their system, but couldn't wrestle with marijuana in their system from a couple days before. It's a weird thing there. I don't know their policy. There's always ways around everything. You saw it in baseball, football, but everybody always points to wrestling because they think like steroids, people are going to kill each other, or this, and this. And wrestling is some of the most laid back, intelligent people out there. And your job is to actually protect the other person. That's your first job, is to protect your opponent, as opposed to those other sports, which is basically fuck them up. So I don't know, man. I don't know about their policy. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I don't know it. So,
from my perspective, I feel it has helped because obviously, and actually going back to what you said before, I think it's really great that you actually do talk to your guys and educate them on these things. So I think maybe had we had that earlier on, let's say 20 years ago, a lot of people may still be with us.
Oh yeah.
But I think definitely it's helped. Obviously, you have that, okay, we can't do this, we can't do that. At the end of the day, yeah, some people are going to violate it, and obviously they'll pay the consequences for that. But I think there's probably a lot less trouble, shall we say, than there was many years back as a result of that once policy.
Yeah, and I also like that they actually send people to rehab and pay for it. Do some people take advantage of it and make a mockery of it? Sure. But for every one of those, there's probably a lot of people that it actually helped.
Exactly.
Look how far Road Dogg has come. I mean, he just tweeted out a couple days ago that, like, who'd have thought that he'd be in a suit, and look at the way the way his life was a couple years ago, and that's awesome. That's awesome for him because I can't imagine what he was doing to himself and all that, and I don't know what he would have been doing if it wasn't for being able to get help like that.
Yeah, there are definitely massive benefits to some of the moves WWE have implemented in their wellness policy. I don't think hardly any of the guys are on any real hard steroids in that company. Seth Rollins isn't like huge as they would have been quite a few years ago, but right. Back then, like during the Attitude Era, there was much more of a drinking culture sort of thing going on as well. Whereas compared to nowadays, I don't think there's as much of that going on.
No, they play video games and things now, don't they?
Yeah, people make fun of them for playing video games and stuff. Well, pretend like that's your kid out there. Would you rather your kid
exactly?
What would you want your kid doing? Out there boozing it up and being a badass and getting in bar fights? We're sitting in a hotel room having a couple cocktails, smoking some weed and playing Madden. I'll take the smoking some weed and playing Madden.
Dude, coming from a parent myself, 100%.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because and like I'm saying, people are having longer careers, healthier careers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and plus the ring has improved. The like I said, the training has improved. Before, I don't know if people trained the way they do now. Right now, you see some of the greatest athletes ever. Before, there was good athletes in pro wrestling, but nowhere near what there is right now. I mean, these are world-class athletes, where, you don't see, people doing these types of things. Back in the 80s, you maybe saw, I remember Leaping Lanny Poffo did like a moonsault off the second rope and everyone thought it was unbelievable. Now you got people doing 450s and nobody blinks an eye.
Yeah. Do you remember when the DDT was a finishing move?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, sir. I remember that. I remember that well. Jake the Snake back in Mid-South. I remember it.
I remember Haku used to make the headbutt look like the most devastating thing in professional wrestling.
Yep, that's because if you didn't, Haku would kill you.
Exactly. Right, so Danny, I've got something else to pose to you now, right? Let's talk about Roman Reigns for a little while. Okay. He's getting mixed reactions.
Here we go.
He's getting mixed reactions. What can they do to turn this around? Because they obviously want him to be this next big star. but the way it's translated on TV isn't good.
I disagree completely. I think it's translating perfectly. Put it this way, are the fans quiet?
No, that's a very good point.
So you have 30,000, 10 to 30,000 fans that are either screaming that they love this guy or booing this guy. It's so much better than them silent.
Very true.
So
like Eric Bishop once said, controversy creates cash, and at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, yeah, we're talking about it now, aren't we? How many times we speak about this a lot, but so is everybody else. And at the end of the day, with Roman Reigns, I'm a fan. I think he's very cool at what he does. But
yep.
I like Roman Reigns. I like him, but I just think that some of the booking of Roman Reigns at times has been a bit lackluster. Where I'm loving what they're doing with Braun Strowman and in this whole thing. It's a shame he's got injured at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the way The Rock was when he first came out. Everybody loved Rocky. Then everybody is saying, "Die, Rocky, die." Then he became Rock. So who knows what Roman Reigns is going to become? I think sky's the limit. He has a great support system. His family's legacy speaks for itself. Great look, great athlete. He's not a dipshit. He doesn't do dumb things. So I think the sky's the limit. It's just a matter of, okay, what do we have time? What do we have a spot for right now? Do we need a babyface? Do we need a heel? Do we need someone who's kind of like Cena, where half the people hate him, half the people love him? Because put it this way, if Roman goes heel, everybody would love him. Then everybody would cheer him. Then everybody would start.
And then this is what I was saying. If you turn him heel, it's almost like we've wanted it for so long. Then where'd you go with it?
Right.
It's almost like when you finally give them what they want.
Look at Darth Vader. He was the biggest heel and babyface ever. Everybody.
Yeah, true point.
He was the reason you were rooting for Luke, but when you saw him on the screen, you loved Darth Vader. So everybody likes to blame Austin for making the heels the cool thing. Well, Darth Vader was the cool thing. That music was cool.
Before.
He was cool. Everything about Darth Vader was cool. He could choke people. He could throw them around. But then when he's watching his son die, you hate it. You hated him. And then when he killed the Emperor, you loved him. So it is what it is, man. I just think right now they're having Roman fill a spot that needs being filled and just let it. Everybody always talks about organic. Let things happen organically. I think it is happening organically. You're seeing a shift, and his character's doing different things here and there. They want the gray area. As long as you're having a reaction, that's good for them. That's
Danny, just a quick one. Do you think that he should have gone over at WrestleMania though? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, against The Undertaker?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I agreed when Brock Lesnar went over, because the way I saw it, Brock should have won, not for Brock, but for Paul Heyman. Just because you could have used Paul Heyman's character as he was, he managed the longest reigning modern day heavyweight champion, and he managed the guy who beat the streak. So now you have Heyman around for the next 10, 15 years to manage and mentor people and have that on his resume. I think Roman should have went over just for the fact of, if you're going to build him, and put it this way, if it was The Undertaker of 4 or 5 years ago, no. But The Undertaker now, you could see that he physically couldn't do the things. Yeah. So you would kind of, okay, he beat Roman. What does that do for Roman? The only way it would work for Roman is after he won Undertaker, if maybe he snapped and just everybody started coming out to break it up, and he destroyed the locker room. And that was him, snapping and becoming, a different Reigns. But I thought
WWE.
I thought it was good that he was saying it's my yard now. I think that's good.
yeah, that was good. I did like that. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I like that.
So with Roman Reigns at the moment, you know what? Personally, I don't mind that Brock Lesnar's champion. A lot of people are like, oh, he's not defending the belt. But Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? They're all going to react when Lesnar turns up. And now that Roman Reigns has beat The Undertaker as well, the WWE do have a natural story to build to for next WrestleMania for Lesnar versus Reigns. You know, they both beat The Undertaker.
Well, do you know what? They were supposed to have their match at WrestleMania 31, and that didn't go the whole way it was supposed to. Because obviously the Money in the Bank was cashed in, and obviously it didn't go the way how it was the one-on-one match it was meant to be. So obviously they got unfinished business there they can work with as well. That'd make a good storyline.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I don't mind Brock being champion. I mean, when Mike Tyson was champion, he wasn't defending the belt every week. You know, there's still other people. I mean, you can still tell a story. You know, would it be awesome if he was there more? Sure. Does it do stuff to people's morale, seeing that, like, quote unquote part-timers you know, making big bank and not there every day? Maybe. But at the same time, you know, I'm sure, like, when they're on the show with them and those bonus checks come in and the ratings come in and the pay-per-views come in, I'm sure they're very, very happy. So,
just use of the resources, really, isn't it? Just clever use of resources.
Yeah. So
I always say, as long as Roman Reigns is making Vince McMahon money, which he is, he's clearly making them a lot of money. There really isn't a need to change him. People might not like it necessarily. You know, I don't hate on Roman Reigns completely or nothing like that. I just think some things are left to be desired in terms of how they portray him sometimes. But, you know, I'm not actively rooting against him, and I would like to see him succeed.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So, Danny, got one more question for you.
Sure.
What were your thoughts on the brand extension? Were you happy? Well, did you think it needed to have the split, or would you potentially have kept it the other way, where it was just the Super Show?
No, I like that it's split. I think it gives more opportunities, and it gives more people TV time. Because before, I mean, if you had Jericho on Raw, you were then going to see him on SmackDown. If you had Seth on Raw, then you're going to also see him on SmackDown. I like that there's different people. I like that then they have, like, the combined pay-per-views and stuff like that. I like it. And plus, you know, got a lot of people from NXT moved up and helped out them, which then gives a lot of the people at NXT more opportunities at NXT.
Right, Daddy, final word. Who to look out for in the future?
Our guys, of course. Steve Cutler. Steve Cutler's got something coming up you guys are going to see. You're going to love it. I can't say what it is. All I know is I'm loving it. I know some information, and it's going to be awesome.
We'll be waiting.
Yep, Matthew Riddle's still killing it. Nick Camarado, one of our guys, 6'5", 270 pounds, 24 years old, another guy killing it. Punishment Martinez, look for him to keep on doing what he's doing at Ring of Honor. You know, plus, you know, we have LSG, Shaheem Ali. We have one guy that's injured right now back in Detroit, Cody Vance. These are just people that in the next couple of years you're going to go, I remember when Dan bought them up. I remember that. Yeah. I remember a couple years ago when, you know, we bought Matthew Riddle and everybody, you know, thought it was a goof. You know, and the kid came in and killed it. And then they're like, oh, well, let's see him work with real wrestlers. I'm like, you know, because they were like saying, like, our guys weren't good enough, even though he was working with Punishment Martinez, QT Marshall. Another guy to look out for is QT Marshall. He just came back from neck surgery. He opened his own wrestling school in Georgia now. He was one of our coaches.
Power Factory, isn't it called?
Yep, Power Factory, paying homage to the power plant and the Monster Factory. I love the kid.
Sweet.
We go back years. He's one of my best friends, not only in life but in wrestling. So you know, him, Punishment Martinez, the Blue Meanie, and Bill Wiles, like they're my backbone. They're the ones that keep me sane here. So yeah, those are the guys, man. Just look out for them. Just, you know.
Meanie's an awesome dude.
Yeah, I love him.
Anyway, Danny, thanks for joining us today, man. It's been really, really good having you on, and thanks for all your insights into these things.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Anytime, I'll come on.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Right, guys, that's all we have time for today, unfortunately. I want to thank Danny Cage for being on our show. It's been great having him. I mean, like I said in the beginning of the show, great guy to come on. I learned a lot just from listening to him. over the last half hour or so. Guys, as always, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, both at The Matt Story, and also follow the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for listening. And of course, please subscribe. Thanks so much, guys.